He explains that if a magic swordsman's skill is visible from such a distance, it must be Alejandro. Emil thinks they can finally go back to the order and bring back troops. When he looks behind, he finds Han-Bin in a crouching position. He is attempting to gain the momentum to jump to the battlefield as quickly as possible. When Alejandro abruptly disappears, Atis understands there's no turning back once the Chosen One finds out Efer has a dragon core. Right now, only a dragon could stand a chance against him. Eventually the evil man takes the dragon's core from her. Seeing her straining in pain, he tells her to just act like she never had a core in the first place. Atisi tries to transform into a dragon, but no matter how hard he tries, he fails. Ellie believes the evil man must have prepared countermeasures for a dragon. She speculates he likely did all this after learning who Atis truly is. She explains that Alejandro's necklace is a rare artifact that lets dragons take on a human form. The item is a polymorph necklace, and with it Alejandro has made it so any dragon nearby can't morph into their true form. He thinks to himself that they have no choice but to fight him. Ellie calls out to Alejandro to get his attention. When he turns her way, she tells him the final component needed to complete the artificial guideline is her own guideline. She demands that he release everyone trapped in the dragon's nest, or else she will ensure that his plans go nowhere. He believed that Ellie would know him better by now, especially after spending so much time together. He reveals that he gathered a large number of Latnians here for a very specific reason. He claims that it wasn't simply about remodeling the place. He wonders if she doesn't find it strange that all this life force is being collected, and yet she doesn't sense anything odd. He questions whether life can be contained inside a living object. That's when Atis realizes the dragon's nest isn't meant for storing items. It's used to extract life force from humans and other creatures. Alejandro appears behind Ellie without warning and snatches away her sword. He shoves the mage aside, then tells them both that regardless of whether their plans had worked, the Latnians would have met their end anyway. Fueled by anger, Ellie asks him how he could do this to other humans. He snaps at her, calling her a background character. Without hesitation, he uses her own sword to stab her right in the chest. As Efer rushes to intervene, Alejandro also impales her from behind with a blade. As she falls, she begins blaming herself. The Chosen One then pulls out a recovery device and says he didn't expect to ever use it on an artificial guideline test subject. He thinks Ellie should be thankful. After all, he is helping her reunite with her dead mother. He injects the recovery device into her neck and explains that to reduce the side effects of the artificial guideline, it requires genetic material similar to one's own. He wonders if it's too difficult for a Latnian to grasp that before attempting to stab her. Just before the dagger pierces Ellie, Atis casts a burst of fire magic to distract Alejandro. He then yells for her to take this chance and run. She listens to him and immediately jumps into the deep pit. Even though she's been impaled, Efer manages to escape and dives after her friend, trying to save her as she falls. In doing so, most of her wing is torn apart. Atis wonders if they'll survive, but with Alejandro standing right in front of him, he tells himself now isn't the time to worry. He believes they'll make it through and decides to do what he can on his end. Atis grabs several wands and channels intense fire magic. He goes all out, aiming to finish Alejandro, but the attack backfires. The magic stones embedded in his wands begin to fade away. Alejandro, on the defensive, reveals he kept Atis alive only because he seemed like a strong side character. But now he's messed with the wrong person. He shouts at him, saying if he's so eager to die, then he'll roast him with high voltage. Part of his face looks burned from the mage's earlier attack. Angry, he retaliates by unleashing his own magic. His attack shatters the stones in Atis's wands, rendering them useless. Seeing the enemy's overwhelming power, the magician starts to wonder if this is where it all ends. Still, he's confident that if Ellie and Efer are alive, they'll find and destroy the fusion chamber located underground. As Atis gets closer to death, his memories of his late older sister come rushing back. He asks her if he did well as head of the Bannister family. Still, he believes that without him, Han-Bin would struggle. Out of nowhere, the Valterian warrior crashes from the sky, creating a massive shockwave. Alejandro, startled, says it felt like a bomb just dropped. He guesses something must have broken because of Efer. The mage has a similar reaction, he can't believe his eyes. Han-Bin says he's glad Atis is still alive and adds that it seems Emil was worrying for nothing. He apologizes for showing up uninvited during work. When Atis falls to his knees, he is caught off guard. Surprised, he wonders what happened that left him devastated. The mage replies that he wasn't able to do anything on his own. He tried his best, but in the end, he was useless. Alejandro scoffs and calls Han-Bin a meathead. He assumes he is a construction worker working in the facility. He is sure that no one at level 5 could survive falling from that height, and assumes the man that has just arrived must have been hiding underground. He gives him 3 seconds to leave, but before he even begins, the countdown begins. Han-Bin smacks him straight in the face with a punch. Atis realizes that his friend still doesn't know he disguised himself as a girl to sneak in. And up until now, the big man mistook him for some girl. Han-Bin's punch sends Alejandro flying through the air. The mage tries to clear up the misunderstanding but first asks the Valkyrian if their enemy is dead. Meanwhile, the Sword King is wondering why Alejandro's level is so high, and now figures he must be the leader. Han-Bin admits he's not confident in his own strength. He says that someone at the Chosen One's level might get his bones crushed. But that wouldn't be enough to kill him. Atis is sure that crushing bones lead to death. He confesses that he would have died if Han-Bin hadn't shown up. He remarks he has nothing to say, even if the Sword King thinks he's useless. As Han-Bin gets ready to give his friend a pep talk, Alejandro channels his magical energy, radiating a blinding aura. Han-Bin now realizes that one punch isn't enough. Atisi says it gets worse. Alejandro is absorbing life force. The enemy re-emerges, glowing with immense power, the life force surging around him. Alejandro's sword that impaled Ellie's chest has stopped her heartbeat. Effer calls her hoping to wake her up, but learns that her heart isn't beating. She starts freaking out, blaming herself for everything. Just as the wyvern begins crying, Ellie surprisingly starts coughing. Meanwhile, Atisi is wondering if Alejandro injected the dragon core into himself. Hearing the mage talk about dragon core, Han-Bin assumes the enemy has his friend's core and asks him. Atisa reassures him to not worry, because the enemy doesn't know that he is a dragon. When asked, he explains to Han-Bin that when you hunt one, the amount of life force that remains in the dragon's core is low, so it would be nearly impossible, though if it's at a dragon's nest, it can be done, since there will be plenty of life force left to absorb. Alejandro wonders what he just witnessed. The guy who attacked him doesn't even have any items on. Besides, his guideline showed him Han-Bin was a level 5. He is not sure where his opponent's strength comes from and just who is he in general. Han-Bin gets into his Valterra persona and formally introduces himself to Alejandro. He states that he will forgive his enemy for his perverted actions, only if he receives a truthful apology. He wants Atis to not butt into this business, and they need to hold out until Priest Emil returns with reinforcements from Order of Light. Annoyed, the mage shouts at him, telling him that the guy before them is part of the Great Earth. Alejandro feels that it doesn't matter if his opponent refuses to reveal his identity, because if he is an outside variable to his plans, he will find out everything about him. When a magic swordsman covers his body with force, the surrounding energy rises from the ground into the air. Alejandro unleashes Path of Lightning, one of his special skills, to fight his opponents. Enemies facing this skill can see the caster leave a trail of sparks behind as they rush toward them, earning it the nickname Footsteps of Lightning. Han-Bin attempts to stop him by punching his sword. However, Alejandro appears from behind using his skill Footsteps of Lightning and calls him level 5 fake Valterra and wants to expose his real level. The magician clocks that the enemy isn't fighting at his full strength, seeing how he has increased his speed. It's so fast that his eyes aren't able to follow him. Alejandro's lightning-fast speed makes Han-Bin wonder aloud if he's not even trying to conceal the fact that he's an otherworlder. He reveals that even if the Valkyrian was level 50, with this attack his neck would have lopped. He further concludes that since his opponent remains unfazed after discovering he's an otherworlder, it must mean Han-Bin is over level 60. Han-Bin finds people with regenerative abilities annoying, but since he wants to get information about Great Earth, he needs to fight the enemy at arm's length. Alejandro threatens to shred the mage to pieces just because Han-Bin is evading his attack. He gets ready to unleash the attack he mentioned a moment ago. He explains the movements of his weapons will cause his force to spin, which will cause the attack power of his skill to be increased beyond his control. This attack is Lightning Slash. Han-Bin gets a little serious. He unleashes some of his strength and strikes Alejandro with his longsword, while the enemy escapes cleverly, although the Chosen One blocks it with his dagger artifact. He isn't able to fully withstand the Valkyrian's attack. Alejandro appears to be in a position where it seems as if he is submitting to Han-Bin. Clinging to life, he hears the Valkyrian throw his own words back at him, pointing out that maybe dodging his attacks might not be a good idea after all. He can't do anything other than acknowledge Han-Bin's incredible strength. The Sword King suddenly hears his best friend's voice, asking him to stop. He looks back and finds out that Atis didn't enunciate anything, instead it is some sort of telepathic skill. Through the telepathic skill, Artis reveals he wants to tell him something. He explains that Alejandro is the one operating Dragon's Nest at the moment, which means he is using the facility to absorb the life force of the people here to heal himself. So if the Valkyrian kills him, it will cause this place to spin out of control, causing the lower-leveled humans to lose their life force and die. Destroying the life force fusion is the only way to prevent it. Han-Bin comes to understand that if he doesn't control his strength, they will be in big trouble. However, the mage wants the enemy dead, and they have to do something about it. He remarks that if his friend hadn't come here to save him, he would have died. But even so, he claims that he would have done everything in his power to kill that man. That's why if Han-Bin ends up killing Alejandro, the blame won't fall on him. Atisi is sure that even if he goes underground, he can't guarantee that he will succeed in finding the fusion. He blames himself, thinking that it was his stubbornness that got Han-Bin into this mess. Han-Bin flicks him on the head with his finger. Teary-eyed, he wonders what is Han-Bin doing. The Valterian questions why is Atisi giving such lengthy explanations. He then reveals his plan to him. First, the mage will go to destroy force fusion. Second, he will do his best to not injure the enemy while stopping him from getting in their way until the mage finishes. Atisi, concerned about Han-Bin, feels that it's still dangerous receiving enemy attacks, even though Han-Bin is strong. Since the magician started this, he can't ask his friend to clean up the mess. The Sword King trusts his friend. He enunciates it out loud and then asks him to make it quick so they can go home. The mage finally leaves with a smile of satisfaction, making Han-Bin wonder how a dragon could be so delicate. The Valterian wonders why Alejandro isn't attempting to chase after Atisa. The Chosen One claims that it's not as if he hasn't planned for a situation where a weak mob would try to go after it. His plan may have been interrupted somewhat, but something like this is fine since Han-Bin won't be able to kill him, and he is confident. The Valterian plans to beat the enemy without killing him. Ellie is mounted on Effer and is guiding her to where the force fusion is. As they approach the force fusion, the magic swordsman informs her that they're getting closer. The wyvern is convinced that her sister is pushing herself too much without a guideline. The older sister responds that just because it disappeared doesn't mean her ability has. She reveals that Alejandro may have placed his subordinates around here, but they wouldn't know about her betraying him. Ellie is aware that even if they successfully disrupt his plans, it doesn't guarantee that they will get out of there safely. She apologizes to her for dragging her into this mess. The wyvern tells Ellie not to feel sorry. She wants to see the sad look on Alejandro's face when they tear this place apart just as much. Besides, she never thought of ending it here like this and is going to do whatever it takes to survive, so she can explore the world. When Ellie points out that Effer has become a wanted person after getting caught and used by the Chosen One, the wanted wyvern says that she can ask Atisi to explain her situation. She then remarks that they are all going on a trip. Suddenly the ground trembles, and the pain in her shoulder wound worsens. Thinking that this is caused by Atisi, who must be fighting Alejandro, Ellie tells Effer that they should hurry. She can feel the life force slowly being released from some time ago, though she can't tell if it's truly that, or just the pain from her injury. At some point, the wyvern stops walking and asks the magic swordsman if they are headed the right way. Ellie can feel a strong life force in the direction they are headed for. The wyvern notices a mutated human murmuring something. The mutated human is revealed to be the priest Hendi, who has undergone a transformation and has become a test subject. The moment he notices the girls, he jumps. However, Atisi arrives on time and uses fire magic to keep the situation under control. Out of his mind, Hendi tells him that he has also interfered with his mission. Atisi is shaken at the fact that Hendi, who originally was over level 50, became a test subject. He attempts to tell him that they are not his enemy. They have come to destroy this place. However, Hendi doesn't relent and jumps him again. On the surface, Alejandro is overpowering the Valterian in the fight of close-quarters combat, all because his opponent is trying not to kill him. He is sure that his fighting has a great many openings, but it is his speed and strength that's covering for them. He admits Han-Bin would be dangerous for him, that is if he could cut off his head. The Valterian attempts to throw a soft punch at him, though it is blocked. The Chosen One says that he won't let himself get hit by a punch that refuses to kill him. He reveals he already has figured out Han-Bin's fighting style, guessing that he has never faced an opponent that wields lightning. He manipulates his lightning and lifts him in the air. He is sure that a refined skill would most likely work against the Sword King rather than a large one. He claims to be an expert at PvP. Using the flash of lightning, Alejandro yeets him into the air, because it will be easy to deal with him after he crashes into the ground. He unleashes Solar Lightning Flash and casts it on Han-Bin, which the Valterian counters, deflecting the blazing strike with a slash of his sword. Alejandro follows him into the air, intending to strike when he is defenseless. He attacks him with Lightning Spear and remarks game over. Before the unleashed attack intensifies to its full force, he feels that Han-Bin should worry about his friend, since the level 68 monster underground would have taken care of him. After a dramatic build-up, Han-Bin breaks his lightning spear with his hand, leaving him stunned to the point where he guesses the Valterian must be heavily injured and is trying to remain calm. The Sword King speaks up about wondering what was Alejandro's level since he was bragging so much. But a level 68 monster isn't a challenge for level 67 Dragon Atisa. Hearing the word dragon from the otherworldly hunter's mouth, he starts laughing hysterically. He expresses that he feels bad because his opponent's trump card is a dragon companion, who can't transform into his dragon form. Alejandro reveals that the mage won't be able to transform into a dragon, as long as he has the unique item that restricts dragons from transforming into their original forms. When he looks into his upper pocket for the unique items, he doesn't find them. He realizes that Ellie must have taken it before he threw her into the pit. Elsewhere, Ellie is revealed holding the unique item, and Atis has transformed into his true appearance. Engaged in combat, Atis tells Hendy to get himself together. Despite being at a one-level disadvantage, he appears to dominate this fight, attacking him relentlessly with his claws and fangs. Ellie is curious about what is happening on the surface, wondering who's the one fighting up above the ground. The kind mage informs her that his friend is doing his best to hold the enemy off. They have to cut off his connection to this life force fusion. He believes there should be something to stop this facility from exploding. Atis tells the girls that he will be dealing with Hendy, so at that time they should hurry and find something. Efer wants only destruction, wishing to see the force fusion destroyed. Ellie knocks this information into them that if they destroy the facility itself, then the explosion will kill all of them. She is trying to find a channel that allows the life force to pass through somewhere. Once they discover the pipe that lets the life force pass through, she tells Efer that they have to cut it. However, Hendy slips out of Atis's grasp and charges up his energy-based beam attack to throw at Ellie and her companion. The friendly wyvern quickly rolls forward to dodge the attack, while covering her sister with her body. According to her, something like this is worth taking as long as they can get back to the enemy. Ellie immediately jumps out from Efer's cover and cuts the pipe with her blade, while Atis continues to fight Hendy. He eventually breathes fire and completely evaporates Hendy's distorted face. Han-Bin is overpowering Alejandro, and they are fighting so intensely that the eye can't track them. While fighting him, the Chosen One thinks that the dragon they were after has finally appeared, and he is wondering if this level 67 dragon can grind up a lich into dust. Moreover, he is also curious about how Han-Bin knows the dragon's level. Since these questions are constantly lingering in his head, he guesses that Han-Bin might be Earthling just like him. He tells him that one can't get experience from killing an Earthling, and everyone knows it. Following this reveal, he wonders if Han-Bin killed the lich. Han-Bin admits to killing his enemy and isn't scared of anyone. Alejandro shows a smile of annoyance and replies that he is actually thankful, because he never liked the lich in the first place. But they wish to deal with the person who got rid of the skeleton. Han-Bin wonders who are they that he is talking about, and guesses it may be the demon god Ormflaus. Alejandro clarifies that he isn't talking about demon god, but someone who has a lot more influence than the unseen demon god. He claims there isn't a place they haven't touched in Latna, and by making them his enemies, Han-Bin would be making the entire continent of Latna his enemies. The Chosen One reveals there's a way out. He explains that everyone besides him thinks a dragon was responsible for the death of the lich. Since he already possesses a dragon core, he will be going to report that he has killed the dragon. He wants him and his pet dragon to leave quietly and thinks that there is no reason for them to continue this fight. Since the enemy can't heal anymore, he is brutally kicked into the leg and gets it broken. Han-Bin calls this deal great but is sure Atis wouldn't take it. He further adds that his friend may be a mob, but he hates bad guys. Alejandro attempts to attack him and calls him a moron for relying on the fact that he is an otherworlder because compared to those people, he and Han-Bin are nothing. The Valterian notices him with an artificial guideline injection. The Chosen One reveals that he was originally supposed to present this power to them, but if it helps to get rid of him, he is sure they will forgive him. When he injects the artificial guideline into his own neck, several quills appear around his entire body, which the Valterian cuts with his longsword. His body then begins undergoing the transformation process. The smoke around his body begins to form. Looking at his transformation, Han-Bin wonders if it is a side effect of artificial guideline, but then feels that something is odd. He feels that this sinister feeling is similar to when he disappeared from Earth. Before long, the transformation is complete. Yet it seems there's still more to come. Alejandro transforms into an unknown level 72 creature. His transformation is named Ormflaus Blessing and is revealed to be at only 9% completed. He wonders if an incomplete Ormflaus Blessing means he is lacking life force. While remarking that he would need to head over to the fusion force to acquire the remaining life force, he leaves a scratch on his cheek in a blink of an eye, leaving him stunned. Back at the fusion force chamber, Atis has defeated Hendy, and the girls also have successfully prevented the catastrophe by stopping the life force. Just as they thought it was over, the lady-in-waiting serving Alejandro arrives. Assuming that the lady-in-waiting doesn't know anything about their betrayal, Ellie tells her to hurry and go to the surface because it's dangerous. The lady-in-waiting calls her out for not being grateful to Alejandro. She comments that Ellie doesn't understand how much he has sacrificed for them. The lady-in-waiting catches her off guard and stabs a knife in her stomach. She then places both her arms to replace the pipe Ellie cut off, reigniting the fusion force, and manages to reignite the force but at the cost of her own life and a dozen others. As his life force is depleting, Kalendor is looking at the locket with his family photo, recalling the precious moments of his life. Efer and Atis are also experiencing the effects of life force depletion. Atis wonders if the life force fusion is starting to explode. He thinks that trying to suppress it will only buy a little bit of time. His body starts glowing because of the fusion force. The Wyvern, who is kind of doing okay in this situation, checks on him. He reveals his dragon core is stabilizing the fusion, but it's only a temporary solution. The only way to return the life force to the people is to destroy that huge mass of life force. Physical attacks won't work, but if it's hit with the other remaining offensive attack types, then it should explode, and Ellie's magic swordsmanship is the only way to do that. Effa remarks that not only are her sister's injuries bad, but she lost her consciousness because her life force is leaving her. The situation could escalate if they stay any longer. Meanwhile, Alejandro claims that he now understands why they wanted Ormflaus's blessing, and is sure that Han-Bin knows the benefits since he is an Earthling with a guideline. He can see enemies' levels, detect what type of species they are, and even gain experience from hunting them down. Besides, those who possess a guideline, these things can measure life force. However, he realized there was an incompatibility with Ormflaus's blessing and the guideline. Not only that, but an endless supply of life force will also constantly help him regenerate his body. And just like a lich, he can't be destroyed with the 4 powers. In simple words, he reveals he is immortal. Inside, Alejandro thinks that he can't tell what's going on around him by reading the life force. He was worried that the remaining life force would be destroyed, but is glad now that Ellie is on the death's door, and Effer has no way out. He tells Han-Bin that the only thing left for him to do is absorb the remaining life force. He states that the Valkyrian buying time now will only kill Atis, resulting in his win. The mage collapses, believing he can't go any further, but he still hopes the mage can at least get away from this place. She looks at Ellie and thinks that everyone will die if she doesn't do anything. She attempts to stop the fusion force from sucking their life force by directly attacking it. Ellie, with barely some life left, wakes up and tells Atis she has one final request. Effer is frustrated that she can't do anything. She pushes herself beyond her limits and starts coughing up blood. When she comments that she doesn't want to be alone any longer, her tears start dropping. Seeing her crying, Ellie hugs her and tells her that she also doesn't want to be alone. Since the magic swordsman hasn't completely recovered and is still weakened, she falls to her knees. Though she continues to express her emotions to the Wyvern, she tells her that she is always alone in this place. The reason she forbade the Wyvern to do dangerous tasks was because she didn't want to lose her. But the Wyvern has always been courageous. In response, Effer points out that she can't fight like her and can't be of any help to her. Ellie tries to console her by saying that she is a genius Wyvern. Atisi explains that the unique item the magic swordsman stole from Alejandro can help a dragon imitate another species. He tells Effer that she is a very intelligent Wyvern, and though that item may be geared towards dragons, and there never once has been a Wyvern taking a humanoid form, it may be possible for her to do it. Ellie believes the Wyvern can do it. She apologizes to her, uttering that there's nothing she can do but believe in her. The Wyvern also wants her to trust in her. The older sister uses the unique item on Effer, triggering a transformation. Back to Han-Bin's fight, the Valkyrian has left a big cut on the enemy's body. Alejandro wonders how many times he has to tell him that he can't die. He feels he can't be killed. Han-Bin is excluding the fact that Alejandro is currently immortal because he can feel pain, and fighting on that basis. He remarks that he is going to keep ripping Alejandro into pieces until he suffers so much that he would want to die. The Chosen One looks back and realizes that there never has been a sane Earthling who has lived for a long time. He thinks the Valkyrian is a beast, a hunting expert. But that only means Han-Bin is used to attack the pattern of monsters. He decides to wrap his entire body with armor that has the strength of a dinosaur. However, when Han-Bin swings his longsword with full force, Alejandro's body explodes. Although the Chosen One lost consciousness the moment his body exploded, the life force gained through Ormflaus's blessing caused his body to regenerate again. Every part was restored in less than half a second, causing Alejandro's consciousness to return once more. However, the pain that coursed through his body as it exploded was still signaled to his brain. If it were any other person, they would have gone into complete shock from the pain. But that was impossible for Alejandro due to Ormflaus's blessing. He wonders whether his fading consciousness is due to his incomplete Ormflaus blessing. Han-Bin continues to attack him relentlessly, not even letting his super regenerative body regenerate. Alejandro thinks that if this continues, he will end up having to absorb and use all the remaining life force. Just as he wonders if the dragon near the fusion is still alive, he senses the Wyvern transforming into a human from a distance. Effer ultimately transforms into a normal girl and asks Ellie if she looks weird. The magic swordsman is sure that anyone would be able to tell by the looks that they both are sisters. In her human form, the Wyvern is a level 5 magic swordsman. Effer is learning to walk. She believes she can do it because she has seen many people walk on 2 feet up until now. She wonders where to start. Does she have to move her arms first? But then realizes that humans can walk without their arms. Since a human's center of gravity is high and they don't have a tail to balance their body, they can fall very easily. However, Effer knows that falling isn't the problem. In reality, one has to tip their bodies first, and before they actually fall, they catch themselves by placing the other foot. She soon starts getting used to walking on her feet. Atis finds her astonishing for having talent in moving force, but seeing her walk on her first transformation is even more impressive. For him, it's hard to believe it even if he is seeing it with his own two eyes. Even a dragon who uses magic on instinct takes days to learn to walk. Ellie also cheers for her little sister. All of a sudden, they see Han-Bin and Alejandro crashing down from the roof of the fusion force chamber. As they are falling, the Chosen One implies not wanting him to get in his way and calls him a monster. The Valkyrian finds it funny coming from someone who is a monster himself. Atisi informs him that the roof is going to collapse over Effer. Han-Bin uses Alejandro's face to hurl himself toward her to protect her from the debris and giant chunks. He manages to save her in the nick of time. Seeing how easy and quick it was for Han-Bin to cover that distance in seconds, she bit him in his arm. Confused, he wonders if this girl is also suffering from the side effects of the artificial guideline. The reason she is freaking out is because she has recognized him. Effer calls him the caveman for walking around half-naked after taking her clothes and money. He lifts her from her forehead and tells her that he also doesn't want to walk around this. He wants the mage to explain what's going on here. However, Atis is focused on dealing with the threat and wants to explain later. Ellie knew Han-Bin was Atis's friend, but was still worried because he was an otherworlder. But she was relieved because he was a good guy. Alejandro brings about chaos once again. He tells him to shut up because he is going to make decisions. Ormflau's blessing starts to reject him. His guideline notifies him that the current body is not suitable to hold the power of the blessing. To survive, it advises to be transferred to a new body. However, Alejandro isn't ready to accept it, believing that he will continue to unleash the power of Ormflaus's blessing if he absorbs all the life force. When he attempts to dive into the nexus of life force, Han-Bin's longsword knocks him out mid-air. The Sword King understood the assignment. He knew that all he had to do was stop the enemy from absorbing the life force. Atisi informs him that it's over if Alejandro absorbs the life force. He prefers Han-Bin keep him away from it. As he begins running toward the Chosen One, he tells Effer that he will be too busy to give her a piggyback ride, and asks her if will she be able to take care of it on her own. The Wyvern also fancies walking on her own, even though walking right after transforming is challenging for her. She supports her body by using a walking stick. Seeing her older sister worried, the friendly Wyvern tells her not to stress, assuring her that she'll complete this. Ellie wants her to know that she will be here for her before Effer proceeds to run towards the life force. Atis is astonished to see him running right after learning how to walk. Ellie is proud like a sister. He believes that Effer might even know how to use his magic swordsman skills, because she has great observational skills and is quick-witted. That is the reason Ellie was so nervous in the first place. Han-Bin continues to inflict unbearable pain on Alejandro. However, he is left stunned when the enemy dodges his attack by manipulating his body to create a hole in it. Alejandro gets back on his feet and claims to feel like a god, implying that he knows all of his moves. However, the otherworldly Sword King knee-kicks him, sending him into the air like a projectile, and then goes in the air for a follow-up attack. Alejandro is convinced that fighting him will be never-ending, so he decides to pull something new, dropping quills from the top. Since Effer is chasing after him on foot, she is most likely the only person who is going to get hit by it. With the quills only meters from striking her, she recalls her past and wonders if she can withstand Alejandro's attacks. Before running wild, she catches a glimpse of her reflection. This reflection motivates her to fight. She believes she can do it. She starts imitating Ellie's dancing form, including the timing of her steps. She feels so motivated and believes she can do it, and everything just flows naturally within her. Seeing Effer dodging the quills he threw at her, Alejandro calls it impossible. Han-Bin finds his remarks insulting because he knows how scary mobs can be, since there were countless times he almost died from Helldogs as a level 5. Both Han-Bin and Effer charge towards him and the fusion force, respectively, and when the Wise lashes the fusion force in 2 halves, he unleashes a finisher move, killing Ormflaus's blessing Alejandro. Following the defeat of Alejandro and the failure of his plans, Ellie is revealed to have lost excessive blood, and the unique item she was holding onto tightly drops from her hands. When Priest Emil arrived with the troops of the Order of Light, they discovered that the enemy had already been defeated. The victory that day can be seen as a miracle. The human experiments planned out by Great Earth weren't a success, and people lower than level 10 were able to wake up after having their life force sucked out. Their life force had miraculously returned to their bodies, and once they rested, they had no other problems returning to their everyday lives. There were 36 casualties, which were mostly from those who were injected with the artificial guideline. This event distributed the plans of Great Earth, and the ones who dealt with Alejandro were considered heroes. However, their victory wasn't celebrated with a single shout for joy. It had fallen silent because they lost one of the heroes. Afterward, Han-Bin, Itisa and Efer were brought in under the protection of the Order of Light.